Hello, welcome back again. You can tell the hoodie's on, temperatures starting to drop a little bit. We're heading towards winter now, which of course is meaningless to any of you who aren't watching this in the correct time scale and watching it in several years' time on YouTube. However, you should know it's cold today. Anyway, today we're coming back to doing our shillelagh. Last time we were looking at how we defend ourselves against those common strikes. Not just the strikes that shillelagh uses, but strikes that other cane systems might use, including things like the baseball attack. How do we actually defend against that? So what I want to do today is just a short video on, okay, once we've defended, that's all great, but in order to capitalize on that, we need to actually attack back in some way. So we're going to spend a little bit of time looking at the major parries and looking at some of the ripostes that come from that. So one of the first ones and the simplest ones we're going to look at is that if Andrew was to deliver an attack in towards the side of my head here, yeah? Now when we did look at this before, I'm going to bounce the cane up, it's going to come into my elbow and it's going to stop here, and as you can see I'm now nicely safe behind this, okay? Step back so it's actually in range. From here. From here, one of my obvious attacks is to push this forward directly into my opponent's face. Yeah? From there, I can bring it back to guard again. That works, but it's not the best option. So what we're going to do instead is, from here, we're going to bring it over the top in a wide, bring it right the way out, and scoop it back, almost with a false edge hit of that very tip of the cane through my opponent's head as it comes back to guard. If I get Andrew to stand here, so I'm kind of talking through him, it should make a bit more sense. The attack comes in, I block, and then as that comes out, you can see it comes all the way around the side, through my opponent's head on my way back again. So that's quite a common one that we use that because it brings us straight back. So it does mean that when that attack comes in, boom, through, I can be coming straight back out again with another attack. I don't have to wait or reset in any way. So that's quite a common one. If I'm going to go straight forward, there is a technique that uses it, but it puts something else in first. So that same attack coming in, gets blocked, and then from there I ram the cane down into the top of my opponent's hand. Yeah, it's not a sword, there's no guard, those fingers are available. So I bounce, slam it down, and from there ram forward into my opponent's face, and then recover back again. So I'm breaking my my opponent's hands, which is one of the core principles of shillelagh. Never trust anything you can't count on, assuming you count on your fingers. Is the idea. So if I break his fingers, he can't actually defend. So attack comes in, I block, break his hand, break his face, and then I can continue to fight if I need to, or that might be sufficient. Another option is if he comes in for a lower strike, so now coming underneath, kind of aiming at those ribs. Yeah, sorry, through the attack. I'm blocking again in this downwards one. Now from here, I'd love to do a lot of funky things, but I'm kind of limited with the fact that I can't actually bring my cane over the top without quite a lot of movement. So instead, as that comes in, I might decide to take that strike underneath my opponent's stomach. Yeah, from there, I'm going to come up through the chin, and then what you can do is slap the back of the cane so that it bounces again off his face, just to make sure he's really got the point through. So attack comes in, block low, stomach, chin, face, and then I'm looking to get back out again. Another option is that I can actually start to use the other end of the cane. So if an attack comes in here, I'm going to block, and then rather than trying to go above, I'm actually going to take everything beneath the cane. I'm going to pass off to this side and smash that part of the cane through the kneecap, and then from there I can pivot and put the full force of it through the kneecap in the other direction. This is a technique called carrying the coffin. The idea being I'm going to put my opponent on the floor ready to put in the coffin. So attack comes in, block, low, low. Yeah? Can really mess with your opponent quite a lot, that one. Now, if my opponent goes even further down and starts going from my knee, obviously one option I've got is just to ignore it and take the strike to my head. Yeah? As is in pretty every form of armed martial arts. If they go for the leg, slip it rather than defend. However, shillelagh does have a defense. So if that attack happens and I come into parry here, I've then got my options. Yeah? So from here, what I might well do is just step off and take that strike through the kneecap, again going low because my cane's already low. Other options I've got, if that attack comes in here, I can do that same driving it forward here, and then down into the foot. Yeah? Not great, but again, if I can break his toes, everything makes it harder for him to do. And of course, the final option, if I've actually repositioned my hands down here, whoa, get off balance, sorry about that, here, then I can use both hands to bring that through into the stomach. Now remember, this is covered in spikes, so when I then do that, I'm not exactly like opening him up, like hitting him with a sword, but I am causing him severe pain and discomfort every time he moves, and potentially, you know, actually ending the fight there if he's bleeding quite severely from the torso. Towards the stomach rather, torso's higher up, isn't it? It's not like I've studied anatomy or anything, it's all good. The other one that's worth looking at is the attack coming straight down into the head. So if I block here, I've then got to think what I'm going to do. Now what I don't want to do, yeah, is move the cane without anything else. Because whilst there's not a lot of momentum and I'm not going to take a lot of concussive damage, those spikes we just spoke about are still there. And he can then push them forward or pull them back and start opening up cuts in my head. That bleeds, then I can't see and it's really bad. So that's really not an option I want to go for. So what's going to happen is the attack comes in, and what I'm going to do instead is again slam it down into the knuckles. Yeah, with both hands. Now, it's important that I keep my hands straight when I'm doing this, because otherwise when the attack comes in, if I have bent hands, yeah, Andrew didn't do that. I did that to myself by having straight bent arms. If I have straight arms when it comes in, boom, it pushes the cane back towards my opponent. From there, I can wrap it against his body, and we can start using that pivot point just to pummel into the face and the side, just keeping that trapped against him. It's very uncomfortable. So I can use that kind of tactic for wrapping up my opponent. Now, these are all relatively simple ways of dealing with things without bringing in a lot of other principles which we haven't discussed yet. So I think that's probably enough when we look at just those replies, but it means that instead of just parrying, we're parrying and striking back every opportunity we get. So what we're going to start looking at next week is something called clipping, which is where we start looking to move in and look at some more of the footwork side of this. But for now, at least, we've got our basic attacks, our defenses, and some ripostes. So to be honest, although there's not a lot of footwork, we can actually now do basic sparring based upon what we already know. But once we add the clipping in next week, you're going to see it takes in a whole different dimension. So I shall catch you then, and until then, have a good week.